Now, Poco made a name for itself as the brand that offered flagship specifications at very affordable prices. This was, of course, the Poco F1. Of late, though, the company has been focusing on the budget segment, especially in India. After the Poco X2, we now have the brand new Poco M2 Pro, which is all set to disrupt the sub 15,000 rupees segment. However, with stiff competition from phones such as the Redmi Note 9 Pro and even the Realme 6 in this segment, can the M2 Pro stand out from the crowd? Let's find out in our review. The Poco M2 Pro has an attractive design and is built well, but it also looks very similar to the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Everything including the buttons, ports, hole punch in the display and even the rear camera bump lines up perfectly. The Poco M2 Pro feels a little hefty and large in the hand, but I did get used to the weight after a few days. The fingerprint sensor is embedded in the recessed power button on the right and it authenticates you with a simple tap. Poco has used a 6.67-inch Full HD Plus LCD display with a cutout for the selfie camera. You also get Gorilla Glass 5 on the front, back and the rear camera module. The 60Hz display gets bright and colors are punchy. However, the single speaker isn't very impressive. You can enable software enhancements for audio if you use wired headphones, but there is nothing to boost volume of the speaker. Overall, the Poco M2 Pro feels very well built and it looks really good in this blue color. The similarities to the Redmi Note 9 Pro continue with the software. The Poco M2 Pro runs on MIUI 11, which is based on Android 10. Apart from having the Poco launcher as default, the features and functionality are very similar to what you get on Redmi devices. There's a full suite of first-party apps from Xiaomi and lots of third-party apps and games preloaded. But despite all the stock MIUI apps being present, I was pleasantly surprised to not get any spammy notifications. Certain sections of some apps still push random promoted content, and if you want to get rid of these, you should really check out our video on removing ads from MIUI. App and MIUI performance in general was superb throughout our review. This is largely thanks to the Qualcomm Snapdragon 720G SoC. Now the unit I'm using has 6GB of RAM and 64GB of storage, although you do get other variants too. Navigating through MIUI's interface felt snappy, multitasking worked well, and apps in general were quick to load. Gaming performance was very good too. I played the usual heavy hitters and all of them ran smoothly with good graphics. I didn't really notice any heating issues either. The Poco M2 Pro has 4 rear cameras which include a primary 48MP sensor, an 8MP sensor with a wide-angle lens, a 5MP macro camera and a 2MP depth camera. The Poco M2 Pro uses the same version of the MIUI camera app as the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Now, from what I could tell, the only real difference between the two phones in terms of functionality is that you can use night mode for the selfie camera on the M2 Pro. In daylight, the Poco M2 Pro's primary camera captured good-looking photos. Details were generally sharp in landscape shots and colors were vivid. The Pro color toggle lets you capture more saturated colors if needed. Close-ups look good too, although the camera app brightened colors a bit more than they were in the actual scene. The wide-angle camera produced noticeably weaker colors and details compared to the main sensor. Portrait mode worked well too, and the level of background blur could be adjusted. In low-light situations, the main and wide-angle camera struggled with exposure and details. The camera app did a good job of suppressing noise, but the photos generally looked underexposed and zooming in revealed weak details. Night mode wasn't too effective either, barely doing anything to improve the image. Selfies shot under bright light looked good. Details and skin textures were generally well represented. In low light, shots were decent as long as there was enough ambient light around. The M2 Pro supports video recording up to 4K 30fps. Videos shot at this resolution had a very warm color tone and colors looked quite exaggerated. There's also no stabilization here. Stepping down to 1080p, videos looked better thanks to stabilization and colors had a more natural tone. Low light performance wasn't great and videos generally looked a bit underexposed and grainy. Overall, the cameras in Poco M2 Pro delivered pretty decent results in daylight, however, they did struggle to give satisfactory results in low light. I found the battery life on the Poco M2 Pro to be very good. The 5000 mAh capacity easily lasted for an entire day even with lots of gaming and camera usage. The phone also ran for a little more than 17 hours in our HD video loop test, which was good. The bundled 33W fast charger did a good job of quickly charging the battery. I was able to charge this phone to about 95% in an hour. I think the Poco M2 Pro is a good budget smartphone overall and I have no trouble recommending it. In a lot of ways, you could think of it as a Redmi Note 9 Pro with quicker charging at a similar price. The Poco M2 Pro offers good build quality, a sharp display, solid battery life and good performance. Cameras are not too bad either, provided you're shooting during the day.
However, unlike the Poco X2, I don't see the Poco M2 Pro disrupting the sub 15,000 rupee segment since it's so similar to the Redmi Note 9 Pro, which has been selling in the market for a while now. The Realme 6 continues to be a solid alternative as it's still the only phone with a 90Hz display. So that was our review of the Poco M2 Pro. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, for everything tech, log on to gadgets360.com.